Speaking of confusion.
I am confusion.
In confusion say, he who stand on toilet is high on pot.
I just wanted to yell, hey!
Indeed.
I like how natural the conversation was rolling, and then we start the episode, and it was like, who are you people? I don't know.
Well, I can go back to forcing my head up Nikita Lyon's ass if you want. I mean, I'm fine with that.
What a way to go.
And speaking of that ass, by the eternal, behold! It's the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
And Nikita Lyons will not be the subject of this show, but I assure you we'll be talking about her at great length at some point.
Ooh, teaser.
Yeah.
Can our new opening...
I would if I can.
Our new opening be that video I sent you that was that little girl that was just like, what's up, motherfuckers?
I'd be fine with that.
I love videos of children just cursing. It's so cute. It's so adorable.
Wow. We're not going to scrub your Pornhub history.
I don't use Pornhub.
Oh, I see.
Legal says I can't say that.
What are you doing here, stepbro? I'm looking at OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. The cultured way.
Is that a coffee or is that an alcoholic beverage you're drinking, Courtney? Or is it both?
Coffee, because I'm very afraid that I'm not going to be able to make it through this episode because I'm so tired.
Ooh, what happened?
I got my second booster shot and it's kicking my ass. It's great.
Okay.
But I believe in science, so here we are.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I didn't know that we could get the second booster.
You can't.
Oh, okay.
Man, I didn't even get the first one, so I don't know what the hell y'all talking about.
Oof.
Yeah, this is my fourth Moderna shot.
For a second, I thought you were going to say that was your fourth booster. I was like, whoa, you're gaming the system here.
Did you hear there was a guy somewhere
in India?
Europe?
It was in India. He had 12 booster shots, and they finally, made sure to catch his face so he couldn't get more.
Oh, I was going to say, he just wanted the combo pack.
So that one is, I've heard about that one, but there's another guy who is in Europe who is he got 90 vaccines and kept getting new cards so he could sell the cards online with the actual serial number for the vaccines. And honestly, I think that's really great proof that the vaccines are perfectly safe.
Yeah, he isn't dead yet. So.
But I like that he was selling the cards as like, here you go. I don't know. I don't really care. I'll just keep going and getting shots.
Okay, how insensitive am I going to be on this show?
Remember, I can always censor it later if you need to.
Okay, well, women aren't the only ones who can exploit their body for profit, Courtney. I'm sorry. Contrary to what you might think.
Do you not believe in male sex workers, Shane?
I don't.
They're a myth.
They're not part of your religion.
No one's offered to pay me, so as far as I'm concerned,
that's the only proof I need.
Yeah, if that was a thing, someone would have asked me by now. I guarantee it.
Oh, that's
well.
So
Speaking
funny.
of implausible shit surrounding my sex life, Michael, what are we talking about this evening?
Well, actually, we can. I'm gonna actually explain first off what we're talking about.
Oh God,
and then...
here we go. Are we gonna just cock tease again? Well, I have to do the intro. I just wanted to at least get a soupçon.
Yeah, the topic is the Backrooms, which is a creepypasta, and then expand into a topic called liminal spaces.
Well, look at you.
Yeah.
And for the listeners who may not have a single bloody clue as to what we're not talking about, what we typically do on this show is we delve into random esoteric topics in the course of explaining them to one another. We lie about them. It is delightful for everyone involved every time, without fail. But we do not allow you, the listener, to leave disinformed. No way, Jose. We have a little denouement at the end of the episode where we explain what we lied about, and so you can play the home game appropriately. But for these ignoramuses, we all just stumble slack-jawed out of here having no clue what's going on.
Okay, so there are 4 lies. I couldn't think. I got too excited about honestly, I've spent over a month preparing this topic because like it's just a very fascinating thing to me. And
For a second, I had John queuing in my head going like, is he presenting to me?
I am that excited right now.
You did ruffle your plumage. I saw it. It's on the top of your head. So it's...
It was uncontrollable earlier today. So like I said, there are 4 lies. I wrote an intro, so like kind of a story-based thing, because I actually have been enjoying, whether or not you guys enjoy it, whether or not the audience enjoys it, I've been enjoying writing these little story intros. So,
but are you going to sing it, though?
No, it's not an intro theme. Sorry, I'm not. Just because I started doing the lyrics to As Told by Ginger's opening credits on the chat earlier today, all you 90s kids, which I realize I'm like the only person in that age bracket.
I was like, Quab, please be with me. So we descend into this marinara-soaked madness that you've decided to force me into.
Okay. Anyway.
Parmesan be praised, ramen.
Okay.
Courtney, when were you born?
95.
Yeah, congratulations, asshole.
Do you know did you know the show As Told by Ginger on Nickelodeon?
Hey, Michael, did you know that I was raised in a cult?
Exactly. So that my reference past, yeah. Now I know how now I know how it feels to be on the other side. It's all
greetings from the other side.
I mean, I did say the grass is always greener on the other side because that was the line from the. Anyway,
listen, hey, keep your ginger minge to yourself, okay? I'm not prepared for this nonsense tonight. Just tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Okay. This might be a hard scenario to start out with, given our healthcare system and all. But let's pretend you have a general practitioner, and you are going for a yearly checkup. You enter the waiting room, and after checking in, you take a seat in the corner against a wall. It's quite crowded, so you settle in for a long wait. As you get comfortable, you lean your head back to rest on the wall, only something is wrong. You feel your head go back further than expected. You reach back, and you don't feel the wall behind you, just empty space. You sit up and turn around and see the wall right there, almost taunting you to rest your head on it. You decide to go all in, cards on the table, and rock back in your chair, determined to recline against that damn wall. I don't know about you, Shane, but when I'm upset against something, I take it as a personal challenge, okay? So if that wall isn't letting me recline against it, you best believe I'm going to take it as a sign of aggression.
Michael, do you know about consent?
Not for walls.
Oh, wow.
Not for walls.
So you've got the Lil Jon approach then, just from the window to them. Skeet. Yes, indeed. Okay.
Paint that wall.
I have muscles in both my neck and shoulders that sustain my head quite reasonably, so I don't need to, lean back, to quote another hot hip-hop track.
Yeah. Lean back. Well, let's say for this case that...
If I had no neck.
You don't. Well, you do. It's just very weak. That's why you're at the general practitioner.
You're an infant now, actually.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bunch of pencil neck geeks.
It's like baby legs, but instead of baby legs, it's baby neck. So you're just standing around holding your neck up.
As opposed to baby dick man hands. Former president of the United States.
Yes. God Emperor baby hands. Let's see here. You keep leaning and leaning further and further back until your vision goes dark, since your eyes have phased through the wall. Surprised, you lose your concentration and balance and fall backwards, plunging all the way into the wall with your eyes closed. You land on your back. As your head strikes the ground, you discover that it isn't the same tile as the doctor's office, but instead soft, somewhat moist carpet caressing the back of your head.
Oh, this is where Mrs. Lovett makes me into a fucking pie.
Mm-hmm. You slowly open your eyes, taking in the giant fluorescent lights all over the ceiling. Yes?
My, how big your lights are!
You start to hear the familiar hum those giant lights make, and realize that's the only sound you hear. Looking... And then you hear Mrs. Lovett. Hey! Actually, that would have been better. I should have done that. Anyway, looking towards your feet, it looks like you just came out of a wall. Your chair is gone, instead replaced by the wall that you're trying to sit on. That's when you notice that everything is mono yellow, a yellow that you associate with buildings from the 70s. You finally...
Man, you're really assuming a lot about my stream of consciousness with this scenario,
well,
Michael.
When you think 70s, like, do you think, like, kind of the mustard yellow, like, yellow submarine? Like, that
no.
kind of... Oh, well...
not at all. When I
I'm
think
sorry.
70s, I think John Travolta's hairy asshole.
That is oddly specific, so I'm sorry I can't cater to your own personal semi-recollections of the 70s.
Welcome back, Kata.
You finally stand up and see that you are standing in what appears to be an old office space, sans any sort of furniture.
I was told that if they were going to relocate my desk one more time, that I was going to set the building on fire. I have this place condemned.
A completely barren room. Sorry, I never saw Office Space, which I'm presuming that...
fuck.
Though I really should. I've been told many times I need to. A completely barren room connected on all sides to what appears to be more barren rooms of the same color. The same buzzing coming from those rooms as well. Dusting yourself off, you decide to look around and explore your new surroundings. As you move from one identical room to the next, you get a feeling like this is not a small space. Occasionally the doorways line up and you can see down what appears to be dozens of identical rooms in one direction. At the far end of one of these near infinite directions, you thought you saw a black blur moving from one side of the hall to the other, but you're not too sure. That's where I wanted to add in that, yeah. You wander for several hours, walking in a straight line, or what you presume is a straight line, as for all intents and purposes, it looks like you haven't left the first room at all. You've looked back on occasion and keep seeing that black blur far, far away. You definitely have the feeling that you are not alone, but you don't want to announce your presence, so to speak, by going, "Hey!" Eventually, you make a startling discovery about 3 hours into your exploration. It's a door. You open the door, revealing stairs that lead downwards. You hesitate, though. Maybe going down isn't a good idea.
I've never agreed with that.
Especially if it's Nikita Lyons.
And how?
And that's when you hear a roar a fair distance behind you. From You look towards that direction, you see the black blur, and it's growing, approaching at you at breakneck speeds.
Listen, can we at least be respectful and say African-American blur, please?
I thought that the first time he said it, and I was like, I can't say that. Shane will say it. I'll just wait.
Yep. Patience. It is a virtue.
It will make more sense once I show you guys a video, okay? I'm trying to replicate a certain video.
That is an excellent superhero name, though. I am the Black Blur.
Is that like the Flash?
It's the
Alternate.
Marvel knockoff because they copy each other and stuff like that.
It's the reverse Flash.
It's the Bizarro Flash that went to the negative dimension.
It's the four-way Flash. There you go.
Mardi Gras?
The roundabout Flash.
Four-way Flash. That's a technique we haven't seen in decades.
Man, you could get it from Nikita Lyons, though.
Deciding between the two options, you dart down the stairs, slamming the door behind you, shrouding yourself in total darkness. You blindly make your way down the stairs, smacking your outstretched hands on the... God. I'm just getting so excited about this story. You
just clapping my hands like I'm a hillbilly, singing a praise music.
You're doing echolocation, so you can see how far away things are.
That would be my ass cheeks clapping, though, friend.
You can hear it. Keeps alerting the guards.
He's twerking all the way down the stairs. Both hands on the wall.
That's the only... Wait, you go down the stair. You go downstairs a different way? That's how I go down all stairs. That's how I go down.
Ooh. I'm basically like a slinky. I just keep flipping my way off my ass. I'll never be lost in any cavern because I'm dummy thick.
You smack your outstretched hands on another door. You've gotten through the downward stairs, whatever. Okay, you open the door, hoping somehow to be back in reality. Whoops, there goes reality. But alas, we were doing song lyrics before. I couldn't help myself.
We were, except it would be, oops, there goes gravity. But
whatever.
Yeah,
you're right. Just like myself, I fail at everything.
There goes gravity. Knows.
Yeah. But alas, it is almost the same as the above floor. You have the mono yellow, the hum, and everything. However, aside from the rooms, there is another thing in that. It's another black blur. And it's not so much a blur anymore. It grabs your face and everything turns black. You have found and were killed in the Backrooms. So that was kind of my attempt at an introduction into what the Backrooms were, trying to give the audience a sort of description as to what they are without doing a simple definition.
I thought it was what happened when my boyfriend got me drunk enough.
The Backrooms.
Indeed.
So quick history, and it's a very quick one. I always love finding parallels between past and current episodes, and this one is no different. The Backrooms originally started on 4chan, the Eden of bizarre creepypastas and conspiracies, which I actually did not know that it originated on 4chan. This is something that I found just doing this research.
And that's why it's bullshit.
No, it is true. It was actually found on 4chan. It was bizarre, yes. In April 2018, on 4chan's political image board, that was where it was first seen. It was a picture claiming to show the underground rooms of the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria, where shady business deals involving children that were conducted by Hilary Clinton. We had a whole episode on that. So that was a picture of that. Yes. Mm-hmm. This is where we got our first picture of the Backrooms, which I will actually show you right now.
And for you listeners, you can take a short walk.
So I will show a picture, and you guys can describe it. It's not a very good picture, which is why I have another thing to describe it with. But
we will also include this in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, in the show notes,
it will follow along.
Mm-hmm, I've even labeled them so that you guys will know. So
he's a professional.
Okay, so this was the original post. This you can kind of see. It's that yellow. I know.
It's just any office building without furniture.
Yes, I know.
Or it's a Craigslist apartment listing.
Yeah.
Well, if that was on Craigslist, I definitely would not go, because that's where I would lose at least one kidney, if not both.
Ooh.
But yes, that was on the political board, claiming that was a secret picture of the underground rooms in the Ping Pong Pizzeria where they had Pizzagate. So,
is that really the name of the pizza place?
Yes, I double checked to make sure. Yeah, it was Comet Ping Pong, because I knew it wasn't some simple name. It had I remember in my research for the Pizzagate series, because I have to call them a series, that it was some bizarre name. It wasn't just like, pizzeria or some Italian name.
Or Sauce Now.
Yeah, something like that. But
as was indicated in that picture.
Yeah.
Sauce NAO.
So you feel like in my description, in my introduction, that how I described it was quite a little apt, little. Okay, cool. Whew, I feel better. We didn't see that
closed down Walgreens with barren shelves.
That comes later.
You can find one off of Mill and Broadway. Those two streets run parallel. You can't do that.
Well, that's not abandoned. That's where the nearby high school students have their fight clubs.
Yeah, that's true.
To work off their aggression.
We don't talk about those.
I'm not part of it, so I can talk about it.
You're next.
Yeah. You determine your own level of involvement. That's what I hear.
Mm-hmm. I only know the first rule, not the second. Anyway, we didn't see that picture. We didn't see the picture for a whole nother year. When in May 2019, a thread was started on the paranormal image board asking users to post pictures of disquieting images that just feel off. The same picture that I just showed you guys was posted there, And another user responded with a narrative. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you.
Bah humbuzz.
So that was kind of the progenitor of the idea of the backrooms. And from there, it spread to Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, what have you, before catapulting to popularity with a YouTube video that I actually mentioned in the Analog Horror series episode, but I didn't show it to you guys. It is called the Backrooms Found Footage by Kane Pixels. And with your guys' permission, I would like to show you it right now.
Intriguing. But did it actually go to TikTok?
Yeah, I did see that it's the idea of the backrooms actually spread to there. A lot of memes kind of developed from it.
Okay.
So I would say more of the comedic stuff spread to TikTok and those sort of where you can't have long videos showing stuff.
Where this will actually work.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite memes was that meme where it's "What if we kissed in?" So it was like, "What if we kissed in the backrooms?" It's a stupid meme, but it's supposed to show a lot of emojis and stuff. It's supposed to be cutesy, whatever. Anyway, for those, again, I linked it in the show notes. You can watch it, pause it right now, etc., and then come back.
So what we were watching was Slenderman's castle in the forest?
But instead of the forest, it's in an artificial landscape. So, another thing that I wanted to bring up about that. So that was actually all computer generated, because that was something I didn't know when I first watched it. I thought it was just, yeah. So because it's a little bit more evident later on. And then I think someone that interviewed this person, because this was like, this YouTuber is actually 16 years old.
Wow.
So he's like very
really
young.
Impressive.
Yeah. This came out in January of this year. January 7th.
Nice.
And this is all computer generated. Because I was wondering how they were able to, you couldn't really see it, but later on before the camera guy gets killed, you see it. Yeah, I know, spoilers. But you actually see it a little bit closer. It's supposed to look like kind of like a Slender Man, but it's more like a robotic sort of thing. But it's vague. It's supposed.
It looks
to be,
like a very aggressive balloon animal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's purposefully vague because the only thing that has a shared mythos with the backrooms is that there's something there. So, yeah.
It would have been funnier if it was Hilary Clinton.
Or a small...
But there are variations. There are now memes being made of it where I heard there was one video that I watched earlier that was a furry found in the backrooms.
I was going to say a toothless dog just licking a carpet. Just
yeah.
No.
Or like people grinding in the backrooms. Like it's gone the whole, it's gone from, creepypasta to internet sensation to now it's just a bunch of memes of it.
You just walk in a room, there's just a giant butt plug in the middle of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You see a shadow start to loom in the frame.
And then the butt plug jumps at you instead of the shadow, stuff like that.
And then you get put in the butt.
It's the opposite way. You are...
How big is an ass to require a plug of this size?
Turn around, it's right there. Oh, God!
That's no moon. It's a space station.
So... there's a lot to unpack, unfortunately, because my internet is trash. You didn't get to see part of it, but there was a part where he, in running away from the blur, he falls down a hole and lands into another level of the backrooms, and it's supposed to be slightly different in composition. It's supposed to look different. Okay, instead of it being mono yellow, it's supposed to look more kind of dark and dank, almost like underground sort of thing.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to digress for 5 seconds more because the second you said it was running from the blur, all I hear in my head is "woohoo!"
So first, there are multiple levels of the Backrooms, as we found out in the video. However, while Slenderman had a YouTube series like Marble Hornets that came out as Slenderman was gaining in popularity, there isn't a unified mythos regarding the Backrooms, aside from the look and appearance of the first level. Because like I said, the first kind of picture in the beginning of the Backrooms took place about 2.5 years before the found footage video that I just showed you by Kane Pixels. So there were a couple of years in which the Backrooms kind of splintered and did its own thing. So unlike Slenderman, which when you saw the Slenderman, he occasionally had, tentacles, he was a long, slender person, went after children, etc. A lot of the defending features of that mythos were kind of solidified with the YouTube series Marble Hornets, because I mentioned that in the Slenderman episode. Unlike that, the Backrooms did not have this sort of unifying thing. So when I said black blur at the beginning, that's because there isn't really a shared consensus over what does stock the Backrooms. And this is actually something I wanted to look further into. So in my research, I actually found a Backrooms wiki. But I hardly used it in my research for this episode, as the lore was far too convoluted, and to read through it would be like reading through the SCP Foundation attempt that I did in a long ago episode.
Okay.
And I'm not going to do that.
Entity number 49 can only be fed whey.
Yes, but only on Tuesdays. On Fridays, you can have fish.
In a month that ends with Y.
Yes. So just giving a quick example, there is an organization in this wiki called the Major Explorer Group, or MEG, and has around 600 million members and acts as a form of government for the first few thousand levels of the Backrooms. That was like the first article that I read on this wiki, and I was like, what in the hell?
So if Lovecraft and MC Escher had a wet dream, that would be the Backrooms.
Yes. So after zoning out and reading a few entries, it honestly reads like a video game walkthrough, mentioning colonies where you can go trade for goods, enemies that you would fight on each level. There's even mention of probability rates of item drops in some of these levels, including an unhealthy obsession with almond water. Not just any water, but almond water. Most, if not all, the articles I read featured almond water in some point.
Are we talking about almond milk?
No, almond water.
Almond water.
Yes.
Like cucumber water when you're going to get a mani-pedi.
That's what it said. So it said sometimes when you enter this level or you enter rooms in this level, you could see crates where you can loot for supplies. Most of the time they'll have almond water. And I was like, that's oddly specific. I don't know why it's that. But almost every article I read from this wiki had almond water in it.
I'm not shocked that people that frequent this are obsessed with nuts.
Yeah. So to me, reading through this wiki removed the overall mystery and horror of this creepypasta, in part because the main driver of the eeriness came from the feeling of being alone, even if you might not be. Not that some 500 million people lived there in these Backrooms, but that was what it said. It was an organization featuring 600 million people. And I was like, what? Like,
can I call bullshit on the fact that there are traders that exist in this in places that you can go and, swap stuff out?
No, all of that is true. They had various factions. Each level had different groups of people that you could trade with that were represented by different factions. And then it had a whole hierarchy system for the MEG government.
Where would you get any supplies? Is it just the rended bodies of people that stumbled into...
They fell down.
Like I said, it reads like a video game. You walk into a room and there might be crates there with supplies.
But so not all of these things revolve around essentially the video we watched, which has just nothing but barren empty spaces and an occasional ladder.
That's level 1. That's one level.
So then you break the ladder, and then you craft new materials to fight your enemies.
Yeah, you can no-clip through that one, and then you can end in negative levels. You can fall down or take a doorway down, and you can end up in different levels that way. There are major connection hub levels. It's unnecessarily convoluted.
This is the worst dungeon crawler I've ever played.
Exactly. And that's why I didn't want to include it in this episode, because I was like, that there's nothing horrifying about that. There's 600...
other than the butt plug.
Well, that's level 33,672, which no one goes to the butt plug level.
I disagree.
It comes back.
And yeah, it comes back, because once you go there, you never want to leave. It's
one simply doesn't walk into the butt plug level.
It's like Hotel California, you can check in anytime, but yeah. The main reason I enjoy the Backrooms creepypasta is that feeling of artificial emptiness. That even though you are in, a built, constructed space, like an office building, a school, or even an amusement park, you still are completely alone, even if you might not be, like I said. So that concept is the idea of a liminal space, which is the second half of the episode that I want to talk about.
But don't you already have enough real emptiness?
That's why it's finding a similar thing to associate with.
Oh, I see.
You want to find associations, like-minded things. I'm empty inside. I want to find empty buildings.
So you're really looking forward to our presentation at Phoenix Fan Fusion at the end of May, is what you're saying.
I'm excited for it.
With the empty space that we are likely to occupy when we begin our initial throws.
Our room is a broom closet, right?
If only. But speaking of which, yes, if, in case we haven't mentioned it recently, you can find us for 4 separate and distinct panels during Phoenix Fan Fusion, which is May 27th, 28th, and 29th, and we will have information on all of the panels in the show notes below, so you can go check that out. And of course, I'm going to include in our link tree a link for you to go get tickets to that if you're so inclined. But it's an appropriate place for me to just, drop that in here.
Oh, yeah, no, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I love empty spaces, I would love to not have an empty space for those panels.
Indeed, we all would.
Mm-hmm.
Teach Michael how to love.
It would make me uncomfortable, but I thrive being uncomfortable, so...
Just like a butt plug.
Yeah. And then when it's gone, I feel empty inside.
Indeed. I see exactly what you did there. Yep,
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Full circle. Just like an asshole.
Now, it goes all the way to the top.
And back out again.
The idea of a liminal space is fairly complicated, especially since the concept of liminal and how it applies to spaces is very broad. But essentially, liminal comes from the Latin word limen, literally translating to empty. Its opposite is the Latin lumen, which is the root word for illuminate or to fill with light. In my research, most of the main use of this concept is psychological in nature, which I found very interesting because it wasn't until I actually was delving into this topic that I learned that the idea of a liminal space is actually very psychological. The website In a Liminal Space is a self-help website that discusses undergoing changes in one's life. Like being between jobs or housing situations, with the person residing in a liminal space and time being empty in some way in one's life. While being in a transitional time in life does fill people with horror, I would know, I've been in a transitional time for the last 11 years, it isn't until we apply this concept to physical spaces that we really see this cognitive dissonance, because I love those words, really take effect. A typical picture that follows the description of a liminal space has several requirements. Specifically, it is almost entirely a man-made structure, be it an office building, a mall, or a swimming pool. While the picture can be set outside, the man-made structure must dominate the picture itself. Nature can only be depicted as being in the background and not affect the man-made object in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
There can't be people in the picture, because it is, by definition, inherently empty. The addition of people gives the picture a sense of life, of current habitation, and takes away from the feeling of emptiness.
Right, you want something nondescript.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It could look lived in per se, but it's got to be like it might have been lived in the past, right? It can't look like it's currently being lived.
You
in,
want something
if that makes
derelict,
sense.
not homey.
Yes, exactly.
Because the
if
more
it's
detail, it gives you something to grab onto, right?
yes, yeah. I feel like you're already getting a
You
good
want
idea
something
for it.
that is not familiar or has an air of being abandoned.
Yes, yeah. The lighting is very important, either by being overbearing, like having a million fluorescent lights humming away in the background, like in the Backrooms, or in contrast, the lighting has to be very sparse, as if the structure has fallen into ruin with hallways and or stairs leading into darkness. Now, while the pictures I will show you guys in a moment are real to my knowledge, it is not a requirement that they exist in real life. There is a whole I'm getting too excited.
Calm. Deep breath.
I'm full turgid, full mask.
Okay, nope. I'm tapping out.
There is a whole subgenre of digital liminal spaces
My whole...
with a lot of... That is another subgenre. No. With a lot of emphasis on video games, which I feel is a great medium to really drive home the eerie feeling of being the only person in a massive man-made space. You can see that when playing those huge, sprawling sandbox games like the Fallout series, especially if you clear out the monsters in an area and are quite literally by yourself. Another example are the first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Halo. You can enter a match by yourself and wander the map by yourself, taking in all the lonely scenery, right? Because those maps aren't designed for you to interact with. They're there for you to shoot each other in, right?
I just want to be alone.
I can't remember the video game. I think it was Player Waiting or something like that. But it's a horror game that's built around the idea of a liminal space where you're waiting in kind of a lobby of an older video game that you're waiting for other people to join, but no one joins because it's an old video game. So you're wandering around kind of like it's a capture the flag scenario. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of just doing like you're walking to the other side and stealing the team's flag and running back with no one there. But it's also the idea that there's something in the video game that kind of is supposed to be like watching you from a distance.
Didn't we talk about this when we were getting into like PT as well, which was the first thing that sprung to mind when we were talking about this in general? I was like, that is particularly evocative of what we're talking about here. So for Courtney, that is the Silent Hill or Silent Hills.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
Playable trailer where you're just walking around in a hallway, essentially in a never-ending loop until you do very specific things in order to trigger the next sequence to occur.
Yeah. So that's another good description of a liminal space, especially because that house it is semi lived in, especially at the beginning, but then you start noticing that it doesn't look like it's currently. It's very unnecessarily clean, I guess the best way to put it.
Well, I wouldn't say that because I mean, there's a bunch of stuff all over the floor, and there's writing later on that starts, but it's very sparse.
That's kind of what I was. Yeah, that's what I was trying to describe.
And there are photographs, but they're nondescript, and the faces are blurry, and weird stuff that's occurring there. So yeah, I see the similarity.
Mm-hmm. So with this in mind, I want to show you several examples of really good depictions of liminal spaces and see what you guys think. Based on your reactions, we'll dive into what makes these pictures give off an air of discomfort.
Liminal me, daddy.
All right. Now, this is a picture. This is the first picture.
Okay.
So this is labeled first on the show notes.
All right. This is very evocative of, what my library looks like from the second floor once we close down. For the listeners, this is just a collection of movable desks and comfy, cozy chairs with a sort of spire in the middle, if you will, and otherwise a very open and airy room with some pillars scattered throughout. And furniture with no sign of human activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I recall the context behind the picture, this is part of a library. I think a public library.
I'm not shocked.
It
Yes.
looks like a study hall.
Mm-hmm. So I have 2 questions I'm going to ask you guys for each picture. How does
I'll have the chicken, please.
Okay. Well, that answers all the questions.
Oh, okay.
How does this picture make you feel? If you have any strong feelings about it. If
Aroused.
you don't have any strong. Okay, cool.
There's
All
a
right.
hole right in the center there that's just begging for occupancy.
Okay, well now I know to avoid any pictures with holes. Got it. Does this incur any feelings of nostalgia? This might be a little loaded question, though.
I mean, it does for me, but that was because I had to go in and check my library when we were in lockdown. And so I would get my exercise in the building by just walking around my empty library. And that was how I listened to the audiobook of If It Bleeds.
Ooh.
So during that opening story where they're talking about the world kind of being in lockdown and all this chaos happening, I was walking through a darkened and empty library while I listened to that. So yes, that does have a weird nostalgic feel for me for reasons that no normal human being would encounter.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot. So you actually you were pretty familiar with the idea of liminal spaces now that they've been defined to you because you essentially worked at one for a good chunk of time.
And I enjoy them.
Oh, of course.
Unlike other people who find this terrifying and fearsome, I was like, oh, thank God I'm alone.
See, this is where I'm a little sad that John isn't here because I know that he would have some other things to add to it instead of saying, I love being alone. So, yeah, this is the next one. So this is actually, if I recall correctly, this is a bunker under Las Vegas.
That doesn't strike me as being eerie in any way.
No,
that
that's
looks
hilarious.
like I was like, that's a Zillow ad.
Yeah.
So what I got most of these pictures except for the last one. I got these from the subreddit r/liminal spaces, and these were the top rated ones. So
Okay.
Can I call bullshit on this thing's inclusion? No, this is a legit.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and this is why I said that the idea of a liminal space is pretty broad, and that's also why instead of me giving a really, aside from the technical definition of it, why I wanted to explore it instead of saying, well, this is what they are.
Okay.
Because I agree with you. I don't really see this as a liminal space. So this is picture number 2. This is also like, I think you can access this now because it used to be like a nuclear, like a fallout bunker or something that they built into.
It's now an Airbnb.
Yeah, for real.
I think it might be. I can't remember. But it was built underneath like the strip or somewhere close to it. And it was supposed to replicate human or the American ideal in like the 70s or 80s or something to that effect. I can't remember exactly, but yes. So,
yeah, it looks like my aunt's house when I was growing up.
Yeah. So we don't need to ask the questions from there.
I like in that one though how the person who created that landscape just had no understanding of trees. Like you have the one in the basket at the front, and then you have palm trees like going into the ceiling, and then you have like a full like oak looking or fruit tree in the background that's a full tree.
I think the palm trees are actually structural supports because this is underground. So I think they just did like how they do with cell phone towers where they decorate them so they don't look as much of an eyesore.
No, they're worse.
Yeah, I agree. Because then they poke out. I feel like they poke out even more when they're like
unnatural nature.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Here's the next one. Because this way I can avoid spoiling the last one for you guys. Spoiling. So this is another
food court.
Picture.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dig it.
So
this
lot
is Orange Julius right around the corner that I used to frequent.
Yeah. So this is actually a good description of what a lot of people consider to be a liminal space.
Okay.
It's pretty much balls.
Like I'm going, okay, so I used to work as a security guard. And the first night I worked as a security guard, I was guarding a home show. So I was walking around structures very similar to this with like jacuzzi tubs and home fixtures and giant stacks of tile for rooms and things like this. I was just like, my entire life has been built for me being isolated in spaces like this. So this is like completely calming to me. This is not intimidating at all.
That's actually quite hilarious that I structured a whole episode for you.
Yeah, I can go to sleep now. If I just had some ASMR, if there was white noise in the background, I'd be dead to sleep right now.
Someone's just going to record like an old mall, just audio from an old mall, and
music.
You'll be like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, even better.
Yeah, same. Tower Records, the one that I used to work at, it had an exceedingly high vaulted ceiling. This is probably like 25, 30 feet ceiling. Mm-hmm. And when we would turn the lights off and get ready to head out, same deal, just giant empty airplane hangar with a bunch of CDs in it. So yeah, this is basically you're taking me on a tour of my past job experience.
Well, this next picture, which is picture number 4, I don't think you have any experience with. Though if you do, it's probably going to be an interesting story.
If it's a slaughterhouse, it's how I met my third girlfriend.
No, that's a later picture.
Oh, okay.
So I believe this picture is...
My father worked in waste management, in case I didn't tell you. So technically, kinda.
Oh my god.
So this is a partially flooded train subway, yes. Yeah. I believe it was somewhere in Hong Kong or somewhere in China. It was somewhere around that area. And yeah, so that
it looks like a wastewater treatment plant. If you've never been inside of a wastewater treatment plant, this is very similar. Other than the water all over the floor. I mean,
hopefully.
Yes, in a good situation, you don't want to be walking through that if the fluids tanks have busted open.
Yeah, I was gonna say that water is probably not clear and probably far from it.
If I've ever described it for you, so they have separating tanks, right? And there's a conveyor belt. It's fascinating. I wish that I could give you all a tour. So they have this conveyor that rolls all of the solid waste. And it helps to remove things like condoms and tampons and things that get flushed commonly to try to separate. But then there is a sifting tank where they separate the solids and the fluids. And so then they kind of tamp this down. But then the solids just stay in that vat. And if you enjoy chocolate pudding, you never want to go into a waste treatment plant because it's just this giant congealed vat of human filth that is just sitting there. And in most instances, though, what your common association would be is you'd think it would smell awful, right? But they actually inject enzymes into there, which kills most of the smell. You just have to leach gas out of the line as this stuff starts to accumulate, and that's where the odor happens. So it blows your mind. It's very, very strange. But in any event, sorry, this is not my TED Talk.
No,
it's fascinating stuff to me.
I mean, honestly, there was a reason why I asked, does this invoke feelings of nostalgia? Because it leads into later parts of explanations, or at least my theories behind liminal spaces. So this is actually perfect. You are not going off the path at all. So, yeah, cool.
So I'm on level 4,000 now. Of the liminal spaces in the back.
You are actually the king, or whatever the highest ranked government officer of the big government organization that has 600 million people. You can look at a picture and identify what level it is.
I am
and
no
when you were
longer
there.
Kenton Eldorado. I will officially be changing to my new nickname, the Black Blur.
Appropriate.
Okay, here is another one. Let's see. Now, this one is a little bit different, but I want to see what you guys think. Okay. So, this is, like I said, a little bit different, but it's supposed to kind of instill the same idea.
I would absolutely go with this. That the vertiginous aspect of this is, so for those who are not looking at this directly, it is a ski lift that is immersed in fog. So you only really see one or two of the swings or the benches
gondolas
that are going on the lift. So very disorienting, and that is a little unnerving.
Okay.
Because you also have no idea how high up that is. Mm-hmm. So you don't know whether or not you're removed from the ground or if you'll ever... This is actually another one of those Magnus Archives things. They do have a fear, which is somewhat like vertigo or the lack of space around you, so you can just fall perpetually. That is kind of its shtick. in order to evoke fears, they just throw you into a giant empty void and you just fall perpetually.
That was actually a dream that I remember having even like back as a child, where
Okay.
I would be at the top, like at the North Pole, but for some reason, instead of it being frozen, it was like a circular pool that had a pier that went out. But upon peering over the pier, I knew that it was in infinite depth, that the pond or the creek or the little shape of water
Okay.
was infinitely deep. And so just the idea of gazing over, of like peering over the pier, was just like, it was nightmarish to me. It was bizarre, and it traumatized me, I guess, enough to still remember this dream because I remember having it as a kid.
This is also why John did equivocate you to Hunter. Just trapped in an infinite loop, and you never listen to any of the advice that you are given.
The oracles will tell me
Indeed.
not to stick my head out, and I'm like, what? No, I gotta see.
I got a pier on the pier.
Let's see here. So there's only 2 more. So that was number 5.
Good
And
gracious.
this one, we got one more, and then we got the special bonus round one. There is another picture of them all.
Ooh.
Now,
Indeed.
does Shane have another story of particularly storefronts?
Mall times.
Yes.
I mean, talk about the night I lost my virginity. So,
Even better.
this is basically what the vagina looked like. It's
Oh,
long,
Wow.
empty hallways.
with storefronts inside?
Yeah, indeed. You'd never guess what I found in the gap. No, this is like the Paradise Valley Mall after hours. This is pretty delightful.
Okay. All right, now the last one.
I'm trying, Courtney. I'm just trying to make this interesting. I'm swinging.
No,
But it's so funny
You're
because,
good.
like, for me, none of these are like weird or uncomfortable at all.
Okay.
Like, and I think
Really?
it's from growing up in church and my parents being on staff, as we spent a lot of time alone in that building because we had keys and I had all the alarm codes. And so being alone in the sanctuary or being alone down a dark hallway, like, none of that is new for me.
okay.
And it was the Lord's house, so
Yeah,
you felt his presence
you were-
there.
you were
I think
safe.
that made it creepier, to be honest.
God's
I'm not
watching.
alone.
Yeah, yeah.
If I was just in a random back alley, like, you know,
Fine.
if anyone's watching me, I can protect myself. You can't defend yourself against God.
Just walking down the hallway. It's like,
Exactly.
Courtney.
Like, yeah, it's you again. All right.
It's the hobo that harasses me every time. Okay.
Do you feel my presence?
Unfortunately.
All right. Now
I'm
this
the
one.
Holy Ghost.
So this one is actually something that's close by and that I believe all of us have actually visited at one point or another. But this is a mall that's in Arizona.
Indeed.
It actually recently closed. It is pictures of Fiesta Mall.
Yep.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. So that was one thing I wanted to find, kind of just like I wanted to see something that was a little bit closer to, you know, where we lived.
I do like
So-
the descriptor is Fiesta Mall in Mesa, Arizona. The mall is completely closed down except for the Dillard's outlet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they will never go down.
No.
They will never go down. But
They
yeah,
haven't seen
so
Nikita Lyons.
they'll close down for that.
God damn.
God damn.
Got it at Dillard's.
Now that we've seen all those pictures, let me explain several theories as to why these liminal spaces might have incurred some horror-esque reactions, even though they didn't.
Hit that second R.
So, horror
Thank you.
esque reactions in maybe the listeners that stop to look at the pictures. Or if I'm sufficiently motivated, I might on the YouTube video actually include the pictures and actually try and do some video editing so that when we talk about them, they might see it.
Don't
Now
write
that I said
checks
it-
that with your mouth that your ass can't cash.
Now that I say it, I have to do it or I have to go through the effort of editing those out. So either way, I'm going to be in the right. So
That's a first.
first, we definitely acknowledge the feeling of being in an abandoned, decrepit structure. Definitely invokes feelings that you shouldn't be there, right? Because that's kind of the idea of an abandoned structure. It's like, hey, you
But
shouldn't be
I
there.
should be there.
Can you not talk about my apartment like that, please?
Ooh, well, but in all these other buildings that we saw, they weren't dilapidated. They were just abandoned. They just were existing, almost like a snapshot in time. And given snapshot in time, being a 90s kid, having nothing else better to do with my life at the time, I've been in malls right around closing time plenty of times, and Shane can attest as well, being a person that closed. And I would definitely say Courtney at some point was in a mall. I'm taking a stab at.
And I know who I want to take me home.
Yes. Take me home.
Michael, what is a mall?
You Gen Z.
Oh my God, Becky, look at that mall.
It's so round.
I like big malls and I cannot lie.
That was like that was like the 60s. That was pretty much just malls everywhere.
Covered in malls.
But yes, hanging around malls after they close, you definitely get that spooky feeling, or the feeling of being alone, because some people weren't getting paid to be there. Shane,
you're one of those assholes I had to chase out of Desert Ridge when I was working there. Your parents just drop you off and then, leave you there for 8 hours to come back at 2 a.m.
No, they would know they knew when the mall closed, so they were there to pick me up at the closure. Not before and not after.
So you also know who you want to take you home.
Yes. Let's see.
Hey, Michael, if you know so much about malls, name 5.
We got Arrowhead, we got Metro Center, we got Superstition Springs, we got Fiesta Mall, because I'm just naming the ones that are... Yeah. And then we have Chandler Fashion.
Wow.
And you didn't mention the Scottsdale Mall in there.
I don't believe in Scottsdale. I live in the knockoff Scottsdale. I don't like talking about Scottsdale.
It's okay. Neither do they.
Where you live is worse than Scottsdale.
Yeah, because we get all the rejects from Scottsdale. That's what I tell everyone.
Okay.
The number of fucking Teslas and people that can afford fancy cars but not sports cars, it's just...
Can we also address the fact that you were going around trying to preach the word of Satan to the folks in Scottsdale?
Yeah. Well, that's because that's where SatanCon wanted to be.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the devil lives.
Let's see here. You also kind of, not really, because now I'm describing this horror feeling to people that don't get the horror feeling.
As I said, you presumed way too much walking into this about the perspective of the people you talk to.
I also presumed that John would be here, and I feel like he is the most grounded out of all of us.
Okay, firstly, never say that to assume anything about John.
Experiencing feelings.
What?
The one who's the most stoned out of all of us at any given interval, and you're like, he was raised Catholic, you dumb bastard.
Yeah.
Feelings don't exist.
Feels a lot.
Well.
So this has been a great episode, friends. Thank you for being here for the final installment of the Disinformed podcast.
I'm John.
I'm ending it.
Zippity zoop, you're out of here.
Zippity zoop, gun cock. No.
I see what you're saying, though, Michael.
Yes.
I think
apply directly to the forehead.
A lot of people would be unsettled by those images. But those people are normal.
With,
normies.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the point I was trying to make, was that he was more of a normie than us. But anyway, I'm not going to argue that point because he's not here to defend
Congratulations, John. You're a normie.
What a rube.
When he eventually hears this,
no, he won't.
He'll be very insulted.
He will officially wear a Nirvana shirt at all times.
You also get this feeling, or normies also get this feeling, from being one of the last people to leave a theme park, which I have also done plenty of times in my youth, specifically the castles and coasters. But also whenever my parents would take us to a theme park, we would try and get our money's worth.
To leave you there.
No, only once, and they said it was an accident, so it doesn't count.
They lied.
I got smarter. But we would always try and get our money's worth, and so we would stay pretty much until closing. But whenever you were one of the last people, you would start getting funneled towards the exit, and they would actually start cutting off paths that would lead to places not towards the exit. So they would either barricade it to say, hey, can't be here, or that sort of thing. So in those situations, like I recall that. And these stories kind of drive home the major theories behind liminal spaces that and how they invoke horror in some people. Horror. Before you say anything, Shane, we see a sort of horror-driven nostalgia, or being places you shouldn't be as a kid, and a more current claustrophobic feeling driven by the loneliness and futility. Wait. I'm having a stroke. My cold medicine is kicking in.
For the folks at home, every time Michael says horror wrong, Shane takes off another piece of clothing. He's been naked for 45 minutes now.
He's been tearing off chunks of skin. That's how naked he is.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
But these stories drive home the major theories behind why these liminal spaces evoke horror in some people. We see a sort of nostalgia or kind of an abandonment, places that you shouldn't be as a kid. So it's either places that you are familiar with, but now they're empty, or places that you weren't supposed to be. So that's sort of like, that is kind of the idea behind why people get that horror, which is also why you guys don't feel this horror, because I slipped. I said it wrong.
Joke's on you. I never went anywhere as a kid.
But as an adult, and apparently having plenty of jobs in places that are just abandoned.
Because I'm a responsible human being who is trusted with my moral turpitude to be able to function in a thriving society, unlike other people.
People don't just trust me in general. But that is one of the main theories as to why people get kind of freaked out by these pictures, is because they know that they shouldn't be there. And that also explains why you two didn't get any of that sort of uncomfortable feeling from those, except for the ski lift one, because that wasn't necessarily kind of a structure of sorts, right? Because you guys experienced enough of these situations to where it doesn't give you that uncomfortable feeling, either because you worked in them or you grew up in them in a way, right? There are some other theories associated with these feelings of discomfort or horror that might accompany these pictures, that seeing these empty structures as failures of the American dream of today might give people feelings of existential dread, where a modern-day promise of success and excess has been lost amid the massive empty buildings built for many people to enjoy these excesses.
What sort of George Romero Dawn of the Dead bullshit are you pulling this lie out of, friend?
That is a true statement. That is what someone interpreted as why.
Here we go.
Ew.
No, that was actually
Excessive consumerism has caused us to lose it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the failure of capitalism that gives you this horror feeling whenever you see these empty buildings.
I'm a non-consumer. Fuck you.
Another more classical sort of evokes horror sort of idea.
We'll go with evocative for 2 points, please, Alex.
Thank you. Yes, sure. Is that it comes from imagining monsters right behind you, and these long spaces where hiding and escape isn't possible. That is one of the theories that causes people discomfort upon looking at these sort of spaces.
I imagine dragons.
Yeah. So those are the more pretentious, in my opinion, theories as to them. I felt that those theories were more personal projections of the authors writing the articles on that phenomenon that I used. I would also say that they're not applicable to most people. It's very a personal like projection of the author onto it.
There's also a degree where isolationism is it instills fear because you have no help. There's no one you can rely upon to give you any sort of support, and so if you're basically left to your own devices, which we are pack animals in general, just as an evolutionary thing. So usually we want to be surrounded by the company of others in order to feel like we have some safety in numbers. So there's an evolutionary standpoint for folks that doesn't revolve around our economic perils.
When I read that, I had to reread that like article several times just to try and ingest what they were trying to say. And I'm like, this guy probably studied philosophy in college or something like that. Like, it was so unnecessarily worded when they could have just said, you're seeing the failings of capitalism and your capitalist mind is getting all scared by it.
He's an economist.
Capitalist mind does not want people to not buy.
So that was actually it. That was our exploration and subsequent definition of liminal spaces.
Well, look at you.
Yeah, I said the word right this time.
Indeed. Limbed for her pleasure.
Any stabs on the lies?
I'll start with me.
I don't think you got.
We didn't.
We didn't.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So the first lie, which I am proud that I got past you guys.
Can I hold on? I do have a stab.
Oh, go for it.
You have lied consistently about every Latin definition that you have ever thrown out on this show. So if I didn't call the Latin definitions of either of those words into question, I would feel like an asshole.
Okay, and you would be right. That is bullshit.
Okay, all right. I was like, eventually he's either gonna lean on this too much, or I'm just gonna have to call it out. So, all right.
So it is true that lumen
Right.
is the root word from illuminate, right? But lyman is not. It doesn't translate to empty. And you're right. I do realize now that I have used that before as a lie. So
Multiple
I need to
times.
make sure I don't do that. It's a little bit more complicated than empty, which is also why I wanted to add the lie, even if I've done it in the past, because it made for an easier transition. It actually translates into threshold, which makes more sense for the traditional definition of liminal, which an article described as a sort of loading zone between spaces.
Okay.
A space or time that is a transition between, like a gap year between high school and college, or an empty foyer separating the inside of a building and the outside.
Uh-huh.
So, yes.
You are, in fact, the lie man. I get it.
Yeah. The liminal spaces subreddit wrote the following definition. A liminal space is the time between the what was and the next. It is a period of transition, waiting, and not knowing. Liminal space is where all transformation takes place if we learn to wait and let it form us.
There's a wealth of possibilities, and not all of them are positive.
Yes.
Yes, because your mind can conceive everything at that point. So there's nothing to really impact you positively or negatively. And so that vacuous, empty feeling that you were talking about would be there because it's just rife with all the possibilities and no defining characteristics.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally dig it.
Yeah, and that's also why you can see that there's a lot of psychological definitions or psychological approaches to it too, because it's that like loading zone, that in between space that people experience.
It's a mirror, basically. So if you have any anxieties or anything that you feel imperiled by, it's basically just forcing that thing right back at you.
Yeah. Okay, so the first lie, I mentioned that it started on 4chan's political image board. So it did start on 4chan, but not the political image board. It was not claiming to show a picture of the underground rooms of the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria where Hilary Clinton was selling children.
All right.
That it does. While 4chan does have a politics-centered image board, this picture was originally posted on the paranormal image board, where most, if not all, 4chan creepypastas were birthed into existence. Also, Pizzagate occurred much earlier, having taken place in the 2016 election, and was one of the inciting factors or reasons, at least in my opinion, as to why Clinton wasn't elected. So posting about it in 2018 was a little bit off, a little bit too late for it. So
you act like I care about any of these places that you alluded to, either Reddit or 4chan or any of this other stuff.
Which is why I felt okay leaving the actual date in. It was
sure.
originally posted in 2018, and then it was gone for a year before it was reposted, yes. So we got the definition. So it wasn't a bullet point exactly. It was part of a bullet point when I described a typical picture. And actually, one of the pictures that I did show actually proved this wrong. So I said that nature can only be depicted as being in the background and not affect the man-made object in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
That is incorrect.
Uh-huh.
While the outdoors must play second fiddle to the artificial nature of the man-made structure, it can affect the atmosphere of the picture, giving a dark and almost abandoned feel to the picture itself.
Hence the ski lift. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't sure, and that's why I placed that one later on, just in case you guys kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and then the very last one. So when I was talking about the more pretentious or more personal theories, you called bullshit on the wrong one.
Okay.
So the capitalist message causing cognitive dissonance in your brain, that is actually a true one, which, like I said, I had to read the article several times to at least shorten it down into the...
You use lots of big words.
Where I said the classical perspective of a man.
There's a super
No, wait, I want to hear the other one. Oh, yeah, for sure.
The classical horror perspective.
It's a classical gas.
I don't have that one anymore. I lost it. I didn't pay enough.
I believe that's what we got from Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
Yes.
There were many of them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sex worker, please.
Yes. The classical horror perspective of imagining monsters right behind you and with nowhere to hide or escape. That was my creation.
But that one makes the most sense, so that's upsetting.
That's why I added that, because I stared at some of those pictures and I'm like, if I needed to run, if I needed to escape something, I'm fucking dead. Because I can run for about 10 seconds before I'm winded. I don't have stamina when it comes to running. I don't run. I've made this clear before. I will walk for miles. I will walk for hours. You get me to run, dead.
We dwarves are natural sprinters.
Exactly.
Wasted over long distances.
You're going to need to throw me over that hill or over that cliff because I'm not making it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that was my creation.
Well, shall I describe it for you, or shall I get you a box?
Give me a box. Is that a reference?
Yeah, all right. Well, at least Melissa's laughing somewhere. But, I like that. Yeah, this is the Michael moment. This is my design. Well,
I'm proud of that last line.
Okay. I'm glad you are. Speaking of pretentious, hi. It's a good time. All right. Well, ladies and germaphobes, as always, it has been absolutely delightful to have you here, and thank you all for joining us for another head-scratching installment. Not a very cash money edition here, Michael Clark.
No,
I'll tell you that much.
Wasn't.
It's not very cash money of you to make me feel like monsters can't get me.
It's also not very cash money for me to help you remember your past.
Indeed.
I thought you were going to have a story about one time you were on the ski lift and it got stuck and you couldn't see the ground.
I mean, I did almost die on an amusement park ride, but that's Did I not tell this story before?
I don't recall.
Okay, well then this is a great way to play us out, because we were talking about Melissa and all of her family really love Disneyland, and all of my nieces, of course, really adore it. And so they finally asked us, like, I don't go on rides. And it turned into this whole, like, why don't you? So at my peak weight, post-high school, where, as I mentioned, I had a friend that was the closing manager at In-N-Out, and another, the two that were the end shift closers at Cold Stone Creamery.
Oh, all things that are good.
I would go pick them up nightly, and we would all go hang out. So I would get the cleaned out vat of French fries from In-N-Out. So they would give me a box of fries and a burger. So I would have that, which is easily 2,000 calories just in and of itself. And then we would go to Cold Stone, and they're like, hey, we're cleaning this vat out. Do you want this? I was like, yeah, can I get some mix-ins? So I peaked out at 360 pounds by the time I got through that run. I put on a significant amount of weight. So I was dating a girl at the time who took me to a carnival that was happening in Havasu. So you can imagine the quality control was somewhat lax.
Oh, God.
And as we're going to get on, it's this one of these sort of spinning odd gyroscope kind of things where it would stop when it was inverted. I did not know this at the time. So walking up, I didn't see this machine in action. So I asked the guy as we're going to get on, I said, is there a weight restriction to your safety harnesses? Because that's something that a fat person's going to ask. And the guy, in a very laissez-faire sort of way, is like, no, you're fine, man. You're good. You should be okay.
Oh my, and that's how death happens.
Famous last words. So we start going around, and as the thing is starting to flip, which I somewhat anticipated, I feel, that I'm kind of a little disoriented, and then it stops. Full stop with me inverted, staring at the ground.
No.
And just as I have this beautiful moment, everything in the world crystallized, and I looked down, and on the safety harness, it says, no individual over or in excess of 250 pounds. So I was over 100 pounds heavier than this safety harness was slotted for. And right as I read that, it was like perfect crystalline clarity that came into my field of vision. The strap slipped. And I officially went apoplectic and started screaming my fool head off. Now, this guy running the amusement park ride and everyone else on there thought I was just enjoying the ride. I'm having a life-threatening panic attack moment where I'm trying to get them to stop it. And they ran it for another 4 full runs. So every time we'd stop, it would slip a little bit more. And I really thought I was going to die on this ride. And so I finally screamed loud enough that apparently I got them to pay attention, and they stopped and brought me down. And I was nearly on the verge of assaulting the gentleman running the thing because I was so, I had a major adrenaline surge, and I was threatening his life in myriad ways before they finally were able to separate us and for us to walk away. And I have never gotten on a ride after that. I figured my luck has been good enough at this point that I escaped unscathed, and I promised myself in that moment that was not going to happen to me again. And I weigh significantly less now than I did then, but still, it's enough that I was like, yeah, not doing this anymore.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's fair. That's like the getting saved by Spider-Man on Family Guy. You get one.
Yep.
You only get one.
Yep, you get one shot at this.
That's fair, yeah. I would be the exact same way.
Yeah. So, it's the first time I ever gambled, I won. And the first time that I escape unscathed, I'm like, I'm good. Don't want to do this anymore.
I'm good.
So, if I would have left a very strongly worded negative review if that had been, something that I could have done on the internet back then. But you know what you can do if you enjoyed the content of this show? You can leave a very strongly worded positive review. You can give us a little rate along with it, because we would of course love to hear your impressions of the show. If you're checking this out on YouTube, you can possibly smash that like button, as Michael's so fond of saying. You can subscribe, do all those fun things. And of course, in our show notes below, we have all our relevant socials, including a link to get tickets to Fan Fusion in May, so you can come check us out for more of this fun and frivolity, and stay engaged with us, because of course we are thrilled to have you all along for this particular ride, and I assure you all of our safety harnesses will keep you firmly affixed to your seat.
Ours not so much, but yours, yes.
At this point, definitely. So I think
I'm loosing mine as we speak.
All right, splat me, daddy. So I believe that is officially going to wrap us up like a slipping safety harness for this particular installment of Disinformed. And so, farewell from all of us here for the Disinformed podcast. This week, I'm Shane.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
And zippity zoop, we're out of here.
Bye. Goodbye, motherfuckers.